Hey lovelies, it's all things Adri, and today's video is going to be a little bit different than what y'all are used to seeing me post on my channel, simply because it's more so along the lines of personal, and I never really share like deep personal stuff, where you really pretty much keep it face value. But lately I've been led to share this video, and as you can probably tell by the topic, how to push through when the going gets tough in your marriage. Recently, this past week, my husband and I celebrated our 6-year wedding anniversary, and I made a post on Facebook, just kind of, a little transparent moment about some things that we've gone through in our total of 13 years together. We've been married 6, but we've been together a total of 13 years. And we have obviously overcome quite a bit of obstacles to still be married and happily married, after some struggles that we've gone through. And so after I made this post, there was just an outpour of, for me, what I would like to call reinforcement of wives in my inbox on Facebook as well as in my DMs. And I was surprised. I was really, really surprised at how many women had come to me to ask me, how did I get to where I am in my marriage today? And it's strange because I was surprised to get such the reaction. However, about 3 years ago, it was put in my spirit to start sharing some of the trials and tribulations that I was currently going through. But at that time, I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I didn't quite know how to go about it. I didn't know how it would paint my husband, how it would paint me. And so I was really more so concerned about what others would think and how they would respond. But since then, I have been praying that God would lead me in the way that I needed to go so that I can be able to share. Because I knew right off the bat that all of the things that we have gone through were not just for us, for our benefit. It was to help other marriages. And I am a person who likes to help other people in various ways. My background is counseling. I did child and family therapy, and currently now I am a teacher. So it's in me to help people and to help produce growth in others as well as myself. And so with that being said, today's video, I helped so many women today just alone in sharing text messages and phone conversations, text messages, inboxing. And I was like, okay, I see what's happening. The universe is pulling me towards the direction that I should have gone 3 years ago. So here it is. So one thing that one wife asked me was, please help me to get to where you are because I'm ready to walk away. Like 3 women said that those things. Walk away. I'm ready to leave him. I want to leave, Okay. So of course, typically in marriages, when we first get married, we have the expectation, in our heads, no matter if we are conscious about it or say it out loud, we have things in our heads that to us is non-negotiables. If he cheat on me, I'm leaving. If he get a habit, I'm leaving. He disrespect me, I'm leaving. We have this in our heads. I don't know about y'all, but I'm be honest, I did. Okay, I had to change my setup because it just wasn't working. Okay, so I was saying how the things that we tell ourselves in the beginning of our marriage can help set the tone for what type of marriage you're going to have. So if you feel like, okay, if he does this, then I'm going to leave, I'm going to cheat back, I'm going to, then that's pretty much the tone that you're setting in your marriage. And it's easy for us to say what we will do or will not do if we're not in the situation. When you get into that situation, sometimes you may find that what you said you was going to do, when it didn't happen, you were going to do it or not do it. So just be in the habit of knowing that it can change when you get into the situation. So the first thing, one of the first tips that I have on how I push through. Now, this may or may not apply to you. You have to know your spouse. You have to know who you are, and it depends on what you're rooted in. So these are tips that work for me. I'm not saying I'm an expert, but I do know some things, and I have experienced growth and the fruits of my labor and the fruits of these tips that I'm about to share with you all. So I have recognized that they have been effective for me in my marriage, and I don't think that they'll hurt for the rest of you. So hopefully it'll be helpful. Okay, so the first thing, do not underestimate the power of prayer. Okay, that is very, 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 very important. I was a person who was raised in the church and pretty much grew up with Christian values and beliefs, as and become less reliant upon the religious factor and more so on the spiritual aspect of knowing God and believing that his work is abundant, knowing that he's always there for us. And so praying to God and believing in what I prayed for, that was very, very crucial in my marriage. So I was raised in the church and everything, but the true value of prayer and the transformative power that it has, that played out in my marriage. And so that's when my faith really, really increased, when I saw specifically things that I was praying about with my marriage and for my husband, that they came into fruition. So as an adult, whenever I would reach a rough patch, I would obviously pray my way through those things and seek God. And it got to a point where I was so in tune that almost 24 hours, 12-hour period, I would get an answer and I would see what I prayed for manifest. I'm going to give a quick example because I don't want to ramble too much. Years ago, when my husband and I first met, something was in my spirit. He was at the time pursuing a rap career, and I've always been in tune with spirits and energies and things like that. And something, I would see him perform, I would hear him perform, sit there at the studio with him. Something in my spirit could not accept it as his calling, as his purpose. And so I learned to pray about what I felt. Something in my spirit ain't right about something, I'm going to pray about it because I'm going to get my answer. I've learned that. And at the time, I would just kind of, So I prayed, okay, Lord, I feel like this is not who he is. I feel like he has a bigger purpose on a bigger level. Please open his eyes, because there's nothing that I can say right now to get him to see that. I'm going to just keep being supportive. I'm going to go to his shows. I'm going to be rooting for him. But Lord, I pray that you open his eyes and reveal to him what I'm seeing, because I don't feel like it matches with who he is and where he needs to go. I prayed that prayer for like the first 2 years, 3 years, So like out of nowhere, his mindset changed into more of, I'm going to be the artist too. I have great experiences. I have great qualities. I have great information now that I can help others be an artist, because I know the music industry a lot, more from my mistakes and all of this. And so out of nowhere, well, not out of nowhere, my prayers and support and all of that, me talking to God over the years, and it seemed like things shifted. And it was a process. I was impatient at sometimes and felt like my prayers weren't being answered. But God was hearing me, and God was working on what he needed to work on, and for me to, do my part. And so it's been about 4 years now. Yeah, 4 or 5 years, because our son is 5, where my husband took on more of a leadership and more of an artist talent development, and working on building his own record label. So that worked out, where he recognized, okay, I have a higher purpose. I can help other people. This artist thing in that manner is not for me. So that's one example of how I started to pray for my husband and see the manifestation of that a couple years down the road, but it happened. So number one, never underestimate the power of prayer. Pray daily together. That's something my husband and I do before bed every night. Well, if we fall asleep and pass out, okay, we got to make sure we do it the next day or in the morning. Or if we don't do it together, I'm waking up in the morning praying for my husband, praying for me, praying for my children. Never underestimate the power of prayer. Tell my husband, guard his heart, guard his mind. It don't have to be anything extravagant. You know your husband, you know you. Pray for what you need. I'll pray about it, and it will change. Number 2 that I have found, as women, as wives, we have a tendency to lose ourselves as mothers and wives. That's what I meant to say. As mothers and wives, we have a tendency to get wrapped up into those roles where we're not 100% focusing on who we are at our core. And I was guilty of this for a quick second, but then I snapped back into it. And it's okay to fall into it, because when I first got married, you know, like any wife, you're excited. Even though my husband and I had been together 7 years prior to being married, we had lived together, we had our daughter. It was something different about us making that covenant in front of God and our friends and family who were there. It seems like the enemy started to attack us in all various ways that we hadn't been attacked before. And so losing yourself is easy to do when you're focused on being a great wife, when you're focused on being a great mom, and sometimes we lose ourselves. So instead of me getting outside the house like I used to do before marriage and before kids, it became the norm for me to just sit in the house, tend to the kids all day. I was a stay-at-home mom the first 18 months of my son's life, and so I stayed home and focused on that. And I focused on being a better wife, being a better mother to my children. And so I was reading books. I was going to therapy groups, newly married couples, and new wives meetings, and, you know, really focusing on building those roles. And while those roles did get better, a lot of me pulled back. A lot of who I am as Adrian, I wasn't practicing. I wasn't going out with my friends. I wasn't taking myself on dates like I used to. I had fallen off at the gym when I knew that those things made me feel good about myself. I'm a creative and crafty person. I wasn't creating anything. I had stopped crafting. And that is when my energy would change, and I would find myself upset at my husband for reasons that I couldn't explain. I would find myself looking at my children like, oh, they're getting on my nerves. It's because I was not practicing self-care. So never lose yourself. I've heard so many wives say that I don't have anything to do outside of the children. I don't have anything to do outside of my husband. Change that. Please change that, because what's going to happen is when your children grow up, because they do so quickly, when they grow up and move out of the house, and you decide and look up at your husband one day, you're not going to know who you are together, and oftentimes what your marriage is and what it means to you, because you didn't practice self-care. You didn't establish yourself outside of wife and mom. So second thing, please establish.